This is Suspenders Unbuttoned, a podcast where friends talk with friends about TV, movies, and books. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. I can talk today. I'm Julie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're excited to have Jesse Hutch join us today.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi. Just like that. Boom.
Just like
Just
that.
like that.
Oh, Catherine's got it all under control for us.
I know.
Behind
Hey, thank you. Welcome to the podcast. We're excited we could finally get this, scheduled and happening. So yeah, welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I know it was a lot of back and forth. I know you messaging me and then me saying, yeah, that works. And then production changing schedule.
Right.
And then I'm like, it doesn't work.
Yeah, real
Then
life.
we went you face to face at Rama Drama, and then we got this figured out.
Yeah.
And they announced your Christmas movie at the same time. So
Yes.
They did. So here we are. Christmas in July is upon us.
And Christmas in Toyland is coming out July 23rd on Hallmark. So we're excited for that.
Me too. I haven't even seen it yet.
haven't you?
Were you expecting it to come in July, or were you thinking Christmas?
No,
time?
actually, I wasn't. It could have come out last Christmas, but they decided to
okay.
hold off and just, from what I understand, take more time to work the music and the edit. And I believe in their words, in the producer's words, they just wanted to take more time to make sure they were happy with everything. So I just assumed, okay, this Christmas. And then all of a sudden it was like announced Christmas in July. And I was like, oh, cool. That's even closer.
like right now. It seems like everyone's surprised when their movie gets announced for Christmas in July. It's like,
yeah.
Right?
It's kind of fun.
It is really fun. It's really fun. So you play a character named Grant. What can you tell us about him?
Nothing.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Grant's a kid at heart, but he owns a business. So I believe he has to try and find that balance of how do you run a business and be a kid at the same time. He's not about the numbers. He's more about the people and the feeling that people have when they come into his store. So I think that's where you'll see the fun come out in the film, because Vanessa, who plays opposite of me, she's all about, her character is about the numbers and doing business appropriately, and you should be organized and all these good things, but not what my character's into. So we immediately have a clashing of just personalities and styles of work.
I can imagine that'll bring some fun back and forth scenes.
Right. We've seen the clip. Hallmark has one promo up on their website, and so we've seen that, and we can see a little bit that playing out. We can see you're the business owner and she's the focused one. How does she end up there being the focused one?
Yeah, that will be a surprise, actually. For everyone.
For everyone.
I think it's fun to just take people that are kind of opposite and you just throw them in to this, for lack of a better term, the cookie jar. Let's stick with the Christmas thing, and you just see what happens. So we had a lot of fun filming this movie. So I hope the viewers will have a lot of fun with us, because so funny story. Vanessa and we both worked on a series for NBC called American Dreams. Now that was in the early 2000s. So it's been almost 20 years since we had seen each other.
Wow.
And then we both booked this film together. And so that was pretty cool, because the last time I saw her, you could say it was in the 60s, because that's when the series takes place. It's 1964, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was all around Dick Clark's American Bandstand.
Yeah.
And so we
remember
met there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a blast working on that together, and then didn't see each other for 20 years, stayed in touch just kind of through social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we're doing a Christmas film together. And so funny enough, it just felt kind of like old friends that hadn't seen each other in a long time.
Right.
And next thing you know, we're doing this movie. So we had a blast. She's great with comedy and humor as well, and drama. And so we were really able to collaborate and work together. and the director and the producers were fantastic to like let us kind of feel the scenes out. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember us coming up with this kind of cat and mouse vibe. We were like, oh, this would be fun. Okay. Because it was coming out naturally. And we were using the set to sort of try and avoid one another, but had to talk.
Okay.
And so we said, well, let's keep this up. So when you all watch this film, keep an eye out to see what feels like a cat and mouse game to you. And I think you'll notice that in a lot of the scenes, there's little things that we managed to do, whether it's a physical distance or there's something in between us or the way that we speak to one another, right? It's very much like, okay, here's some bait. Will you take it? Okay, follow me. Okay, I'll follow you. And it became really fun.
I feel like you're answering all of our questions.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Like in that one thing, like there's a lot to unpack. That sounds really fun. Julie and I are both really big fans of that kind of push and pull relationship dynamic on screen. So this sounds kind of right up our alley.
And our followers in particular love to have something extra to look for.
Yes.
So clearly we're looking for the cat and mouse games
Absolutely.
now. So we'll be watching for that. Will you live tweet during the movie? Is that your thing?
I'm doing something. I don't know what. I think through Hallmark we're doing like a live
Facebook live probably.
But I don't know if that's
I don't know. Free-record those Facebook lives.
Yeah, those are pre-recorded.
That's what I was wondering. But I mean, I did an interview 2 days ago and I didn't realize it was live. And it's like, boom, live. You're on TV. And I was like, oh, hey, it's live. I should put some shorts on. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's fun. What was that for?
It was for something called The Morning Show.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. I don't know. It was just super fast.
Yeah,
like
talk about the movie.
Talk about the movie, fun Christmas game, and like cut to commercial.
Okay, perfect. And we're live. And we're a live talk along. Everyone comes along for the ride. So,
yeah.
We're real casual. I'm looking over at the counters.
A little more.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say this is like a little more relaxed. It's not like, oh my goodness, we have 30 seconds. Go.
No. We're a conversation. We are not a game show. Like,
yeah, we wouldn't run well like that. I'm looking over at the comments. I see we have a bunch of people watching, and everybody's saying hi.
Lots from Rama Drama. Chad's in the comments there.
Yep. Angie's saying she didn't realize how funny you were until Rama Drama. We'll have to talk about that
we'll
too.
Get to that.
Thank you. Thank you for
there was a lot of fun there. There was a lot to laugh about. Super fun.
Great weekend.
Right. So Hallmark has been doing movies that are a little less cookie cutter. Is there anything about this movie that is maybe a little unexpected?
Formulaic, yeah.
I mean, I think as performers, we're always trying to like push something, whether it's an emotion or something to try. So, I mean, I just remember when we were making the film, it was like, I think this can be more emotional. Like, let's almost bring the tears here. And there's moments, right? Like where I think, usually around the third act where it's like, it's all falling apart.
Right.
Nothing's going to work, but like, we know it's going to work. Right.
Right.
And so I think Vanessa and I actually worked really hard along with the director and producers to just find moments that we really pushed, didn't kind of ride the line of safety. We were like, you know what, let's try a version where we're just like really upset at each other and go for it.
Yeah, we like I think, as viewers, people really want to see that emotional range, something that's a little more what you see in life. I mean, you're choosing Hallmark because you understand the storyline, but I think we want more of a range. And so making those choices makes us as viewer more engaged in what we're watching.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think people are awesome and people are the best part of anything.
Right.
And especially this industry. And we don't, I mean, unless we go to a Rama Drama or one of these conventions, we don't get feedback from you all, right? It's kind of, I mean, once in a while, yes, we'll get things on social media maybe, but it's not a face-to-face, heart-to-heart, like, hey, this movie touched me, or I hated your character in this, or why'd you have to be so mean, And so I think we'd like to assume that our audience is awesome and they have these, you know, awesome, cool hearts that can explore and feel all kinds of emotion. And I like movies where, for me personally, where the lead guy doesn't always have it together. He doesn't always say the right things and look the right way. And I like finding the goofball in most of the roles that I play, if possible. And so I think you'll see that in this as well.
But I think the lightheartedness and also the not perfect is gives a better arc. It's as a viewer, it's more fun to watch some of that, and then also to bring more emotion to it. I think people like that range. Plus a little comedy, seeing a little more comedy in some of these films now.
I love comedy. I mean, it's like if I could, I would push it. Like a lot of the times they're trying to pull me back because I'm like, I think you would do that. And they're like, that's crazy. It's too crazy.
Fun.
I'm like, come on, can't we just Ace Ventura this? Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Come on, right?
That would be fun. I need to know, since you were playing like these little cat and mouse games around the set, did you do any like little stunts? Did you just like add in some falls or something?
You usually those are a little more difficult to get away with. Yeah, I mean, you know, in these movies it'll be like someone like trips a little bit and you catch each other, right? It's like, oh, it's like the stunt, and then you look into each other's eyes and it's like, oh.
I'll spark.
Yeah.
Can you do the sound effects for the movie too? Because
I should. I'll just do a live sound effect. I won't even talk.
Just do the sound effects.
So I mean, I'm trying to think if we have one of those moments in this movie. We probably do, where it's like one of us trips and we catch the. You know what I mean? It's always in there, isn't it?
Right.
So there's always, but no, there's no like crazy stunts. I don't remember anything crazy where it was like, oh, I mean, I'm always joking around and pushing for it. Where I'm like, all right, I think this is where the wall explodes and I fly through the other wall.
Then you pull
sing
back,
a Christmas carol.
And then we sing a Christmas carol.
Oh, I tried. There's one part where like I'm supposed to select a Christmas tree, and I was like, you know what? What if I grab the Christmas tree and just run with it? And they're like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, but what if I just did it and didn't ask permission, even though I just told you I was going to do it? And they're like, you better not do that. And I was like, but I might.
But
I might forget you just said that.
Don't ask permission, ask forgiveness. Learn the steps.
Amen for that.
There's sometimes.
But I mean, something I do like to do, if possible, is I like to try and surprise the other actors I work with. So that might be me delivering a different type of option for the scene, or I will I'll add something, or I'll find a prop and I'll sort of just like bring it into the scene without even telling them, you know what I mean, and kind of just sort of force it into the scene and see what happens. And so I'm always trying to find moments like that where, not to embarrass the other character or the other actor, but rather to hopefully empower or bring something to the scene that they wouldn't expect, right? So maybe it is a gesture of me pulling out a chair, right? It wasn't in the scene, it had nothing to do with it, but there's a chair right there, and somehow I'll be like, oh, okay, fine, you want to do that thing? Well, please, you know. And it's like you put that person in a position where are they going to accept it, or are they going to totally ignore it? And of course, as many of you know, the rule for anything when it comes to sort of on a whim decision, you try to accept whatever the actor throws your way, because it's boring to say no. So right. So it's fun. So you can also watch for that. I believe there were some moments of that where I was like, I'm just going to throw something at you, Vanessa. And she's like, well, what are you going to throw me? I'm like, oh, see. Yeah. She's like, oh, okay, fine. Well, maybe I'll throw something at you. And I'm like, okay, fine. And we would do that.
Willing to play ball. She'll catch and
send. She's awesome that way. I mean,
that's more fun. So sometimes you can see that more spontaneity in the movie when you're watching. I mean, you can see that more of a connection, and then you can tell the actors are connected with each other, because you got to pay attention when you're not doing as expected, right? So yeah, we love that.
Brings a little twist. Do you have a favorite like behind the scenes story for us that you can share?
That always gets me. We filmed that like over
I know.
a year ago.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I should have went through all my old photos and stuff. because we're always like joking around and.
Right, I bet you need to shuffle through your old photos to remember, right?
I mean,
yeah, put some up.
I mean, there's stuff that I like to do to bring joy to set. Just in like I love to joke around with the crew and the cast, and so one thing that I've sort of started with anyone who's worked with me, maybe they're listening to this, they'll go, "Oh yeah, he does that." Is I like to take blame for anything that goes wrong, even if it's nobody's fault or it's not my fault, or like maybe an airplane flies overhead and it completely ruins the scene, or like a Harley Davidson goes by, or yeah, I don't know, something, a Christmas tree falls over in the background. I'll be like, sorry, that was my tree. You know, and so I like to take fault for anything technical, anything. And so that's kind of a surprise thing that I think, dare I say, comes out in the product because the crew has fun. You know what I mean? I think that you need to I think it's important for lead actors to lead, and I think you should lead people. And I think by leading people, the best way to do that is by kind of getting in there with them, by not trying to overpower and be above people, but by just getting to know their names and hanging out with them and finding out if someone just got married, maybe someone has gone through a divorce, maybe someone just had a baby, maybe someone just lost their grandparent. And it's those things that really bring everybody together. And I think that actually helps the project. It's this there's a side effect that occurs that is much stronger than you would imagine.
Well, I imagine when you start connecting with people and you start like learning about each other and learning a little bit more how you work, then everybody works better together, which just must change the whole environment.
The team as a group,
the whole team
is superior to any one individual.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people work in situations like that. I work where my team is incredibly important to me, and together we can make amazing outcomes that separately we can't do. And I feel like in the film industry, you're very dependent on the team.
Yeah. And quite often you don't pick the team doesn't pick you.
Right.
There's a lot of different things at play, right? The people in some office somewhere that have made a bunch of decisions, and now we're all doing it, and which is fun. I mean, I think it's part of the challenge, and for me, I love challenge. When pressure increases, my focus increases. When pressure decreases, my focus decreases. So it's funny, if there's like no tension, no pressure,
then
no clock.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
We both like the pressure. Yeah. My job is all about under the pressure, so we can totally relate. But you had worked with Vanessa before? Had you worked with anybody else on the team before?
So Vortex is the production company on the ground behind all of that, and all the producers. I've actually worked with all of them. I did another Christmas movie with them called In for Christmas.
Yeah.
I think I had longer hair, totally different kind of vibe. But yeah, I had worked with a lot of those folks before, so it really felt fantastic. It was like, oh, hey, oh, yeah.
Is it nice just to roll in and know a bunch of faces?
It always is. I mean, it's very helpful, and it's a good mix to sort of have people you've never met along with people you've worked with before. And I mean, it doesn't happen all the time either. So it's a blessing when it does, because I mean, I have friends in this business. I haven't seen them I had friends that ended up on Supernatural, and I didn't see them for like 15 years. And I'm like, where you been? And they're like, on Supernatural. It's like, that's right. You know? So it's like, finally I end up on the show, and then I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I've been here the whole time. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I need to get on this show more then.
Right. No, I can see how that could totally happen, in that you would end up seeing somebody a lot and then not seeing them at all because they're doing something else, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And some people will leave. Like, there's certain people in the industry that they just leave and you didn't know, right? And you run into them at a coffee shop one day and they're like, man, I quit. I'm like totally into real estate. And I'm like, what? Crazy. Cool. What's up?
But right? They just change directions. Sometimes and I think the pandemic made a lot of people think about what they were doing, not just in your industry, but I know that industry was impacted so much and people made changes. in a lot of industries, and you're like, what are you doing now? So maybe it's, I don't know, but we're glad that you're making films.
Yeah.
So
yes. Well, I was just going to ask you, if you weren't acting, what would you be doing?
Oh, there's a great country song that says if I wasn't doing this, I'd still be doing this.
Right.
I mean, now that I've been in it and I've sort of tasted it, it's too exciting to just walk away from. So I mean, I would have to. I mean, I've slowly been directing more.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to leave one for the other.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they go together well.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been highly involved in stunts, and I'm also like a fully unionized stunt performer. So there's that aspect as well. And I love just storytelling. And I mean, sometimes it's great to just sort of shift gears and be in a different part of the storytelling team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Having done directing, sorry, go ahead.
No, there's a slight lag. So
I know. I feel like I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
That's what I feel like.
Well, how has like starting to direct changed the way that you approach like acting in a scene? Or vice versa.
No, it's good because there's times that I will think, why are we filming it this way? Why are we doing it this way? As a director and as a kind of a mind of like, well, how do we direct this? Sometimes I don't necessarily personally agree with how we're going to do this, but on the acting end, that's not my job. I'm supposed to just be a part of that storytelling. So I'm learning to keep my mouth shut. and there's a time to speak and there's a time to be quiet, right?
Right.
And so I think always trying to find, when can I be of a help? Can I be of a service to the vision and to the team?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's always something you have to look out for. But yeah, I mean, I love directing, so I think that helps me help everyone else, because I can catch on to, okay, I know why we're doing the dolly shot. I know why we're trying to get this establishing shot. I know why they're asking me to delay my dialogue 4 beats. Okay, let's help everybody out here, because as a director, I see what we're trying to do now.
Right.
But as an actor, I actually get to step in and be a part of the solution, and not just sort of outside going, oh, could they just like wait 4 beats before they speak? Like, how hard is that?
Right.
And so instead I could be the actor who goes, I don't want them to be frustrated for the actor who can't wait 4 beats. Just wait, and it's going to help everybody.
Right.
And so I think it's just another way to collaborate and another way to be helpful. So I like it. I mean, it's so much fun when you feel everyone like gelling. Like there's an unspoken gelling. Can I say that?
Yeah.
There's an unspoken kind of cohesion that works.
Right.
And I mean, I'll tell you, some of the best takes are when, as a performer, you feel like you're in it, and you got the dialogue, and you're looking into the eyes of the other people, and they're hearing you, and you're hearing them, and you feel the dolly camera moving, and you know that, and you feel the focus puller like pulling focus and going from person to person. And when they say cut and everyone's happy, that is a very unique and, dare I say, addictive feeling. Like it's incredible.
When everything comes together and everyone's doing their thing and it's all working, you know it's good. And I think people see that too. You benefit on screen when we see that happen too. We get to see it. It plays out better on screen when that's happening. So, yeah.
Well, and it's always interesting to hear your thoughts, right? To hear everyone who's watching, because I mean, there's the individual performer. So we're all going, okay, I'm bringing my stuff to the table. They're bringing their stuff, and they are, and then the lighting and everybody's bringing their stuff. And then we all think that we're doing what we're thinking.
Right.
But are we? We hope so.
Right.
And so there's always a learning curve, I think, on every performer's journey, where I kind of use American Idol as an example, where you always see those stories where there's this like 5-minute buildup of how amazing they are.
Right.
And then you hear them and you're like, that's not what I was expecting.
Not exactly.
Right. And I I pray and I train and I hope that what I'm able to bring to the screen is actually enjoyable for people. And what I think I'm doing is actually translating to everyone else at home. And they're going, wow, I totally believe that. And I bought it and I believe it, instead of them going, yeah, Jesse, you screwed that up. Like, I don't believe at all that this guy's upset. Like, it's horrible.
Oh, that's fun. So we heard that you're transitioning to being a director, but how did you actually get started as an actor? What was that path like?
Ooh, just going to the hard questions, huh? I mean, to be honest, I think it took kind of a couple of years almost. I would say very simply, it started. I was a whitewater raft guide at the time.
Yeah,
I was in my
that's
5th
the way
year.
everyone should start.
Yeah, I totally. I was living on the river. I was growing my beard out. I was tan to the max. I was outside every day, all day, and I was running these class 1 to 5 rapids, and I loved it. But I also love watching movies, and I like collecting posters. Never did I think I would make films ever, and so I literally would take shifts in the evening, either doing security or working in the kitchen to make extra money. Because funny enough, they do not pay you at all to keep people alive for some reason. So I'd make these like very little. Loved being a whitewater raft guy, but needed to make some more cash. So I'd work in the kitchen in the evening, and I'm working away, and I hear this ad on the radio, and it was for something called Model Search America, and it used to be a big thing. Yeah, and it was like models this and models that. And I was like, I don't want to be a model. And you could meet the casting director from 20th Century Fox. And I was like, oh, let's go. They have cool movies. I was like, and I literally turned to the guy I'm working with. I was like, I'm going to go to that thing. And he's like, what thing? I was like, I was just on the radio. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. There's something at the 20th Century Fox might be there or something. I'm going to go. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to go? I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. I like took my apron off. He's like, you're going to get fired. And I'm like, whatever. and I left. And I literally got in the car and I drove for almost 2 hours to this giant city that was kind of close by. And I went to this, sort of screening session for Model Search America. And I had jeans and a t-shirt on. Everybody else was decked out to the nines, looking good. And I was like, wow, I do not fit in here. But you know what? I came all this way. I gotta see this through. So I got in line. Stand out, though. I definitely stood out for lack of preparation. And so I'm in this lineup for a good 45 minutes. I get to the front and the guy's like, sort of looks at me like, okay, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know. I heard there was like an acting portion maybe, or a 20th Century Fox, and I like their movies. And he's like, have you ever acted? I was like, no. Did you ever do theater? I was like, no. Do you have any pictures? I was like, no. He's like, you taken like an improv class? I was like, no. He's like, can you smile? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, you have all your teeth. That's good. No word of a lie. That's what he said to me. And he goes, okay, well, go get in that line. So I'm like, okay. Get in another line. 45 minutes again. Same thing. You got pictures? No. Training? No. Blah, blah, blah. No. Anyway, they're like, well, if you want to pay, you can come to this big event. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's one of those. I'm
not going to pay.
So I go back home and I'm like, really, I'm going to pay? And then I got to do like runway stuff. And then they're going to stare at me and then they'll decide if they want to see me. I'm like, this is really weird. But I was like, I've never done anything like that before. So I booked my hotel ahead of time. And it was taking place in Rochester, New York. Yeah. And I'd never been there. So I got on a bus and it was like a 17-hour bus ride or something.
Oh, jeez.
And as I'm getting closer, all these like modelly people start getting on and I start finding out we're all going to the same place. So we start hanging out, we're talking, we're having fun. And then we get there and none of these people booked a hotel ahead of time. So they're all like, oh my goodness, it's full. We don't have anywhere to stay. And I'm like, I guess you guys can like crash in my room. So I got like 8 people that I just met on the bus, guys, girls, they're all crashing on the floor. It was crazy. I was like, what? So like, I'm in my own room, sleeping in a chair in the corner and I'm like, okay, cool. So I do this whole weekend and it's literally like, you have to like walk this runway and come to the end and so I'm just watching everybody else. I'm like, all right, I'll just walk down there and come to the end. But there was like, and then you do all these things and then they call your number, right? If you got selected. So no word of a lie, the whole event is like done. They've been calling numbers for like 15 minutes because there was over 2,500 people at this thing.
Wow.
And literally they're like, all right, thanks to everybody for coming. I was like, oh, what a bummer. I didn't make it. And they're like, hold on, we got one more number here. It's kind of like all squished up. And no word of a lie. They're like, number whatever. It was like 7797840. Jesse Hutch for 20th Century Fox. And I was like, what? I was like, and everybody I was with was like, whoa. And I was like, no. Did they just say that? I was like, okay, now what? So I went and I got to meet a gentleman named Christian Kaplan, who still works for 20th Century Fox to this day. And I walk in and I sit down. It's just him in this room, and he's like at a table with this like lighting. It's like CIA lighting, and he's like, from LA. I'd never been to LA in my life, and he's just like totally direct and honest and brutal, like in a good way. And he's like, so do you have any experience? He's like, no. He's like, have you ever acted? No. And do you have any pictures? He looks at my pictures. These are horrible pictures. I was like, okay. He's like, where's your accent from? I was like, well, I grew up mostly in Canada. He's like, where's that? And I'm like, it's like a small town north. He's like, okay, whatever. And honestly, it was really amazing how honest he was, because it was helpful. And it really, for the first time, gave me a sense of what to expect in this industry. And so anyway, he totally goes through, I have nothing that's like really good or great. And he goes, all right, well, I called your number because I sort of just maybe saw something in your personality. I don't know. But he's like, anyway, take these papers. You got 15 minutes. You're going to go out. You're going to prepare these scenes. You'll come back in and we'll do an audition. And I was like, he's like, have you ever auditioned? I was like, no. He's like, all right, well, here you go. Go prepare. I'm like, okay.
This is amazing.
Yeah, this is swear everything's true here, based on a true story. So I go out in the hallway and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. So I'm like, okay. So I'm reading through these lines and I'm like, okay, I'm this dude. And anyway, I went back in. I did the audition. He goes, okay, you're gonna go out. I'll call you back in when I'm done. And there's a few other people that he was seeing and stuff. And then I come back in and he goes, okay, I'm gonna be straight up with you. He goes, your accent's going to need work. You're going to need more of a standard American. You're extremely green. You don't know what you're doing. You have zero experience. Your photos are horrible. You're going to need new photos. You're going to have to take classes. You got to get some experience somewhere doing something. You have an interesting look, but he's like, there's a lot of guys that look like you. But he's like, but I think there might be something if you go after it. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. And he gave me his office number and he said, stay in touch with my office. And I want you to check in once a month and let my assistant know what you're doing. So I went back home and I honestly, the closest thing I could find was like an improv class from some dude who went to college for it. I started taking improv classes like once a week. And, I had some friends take some pictures. And then I started going, okay, where do I have to go to do this? And at that time I had to go to the West Coast is what I felt like to go to Vancouver. And so I got on an airplane when I was 21. It was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane. I finished, I was still a whitewater raft guide, of course. And I was like, okay, I'll make like a couple $1,000, put that in my pocket and I'll go. And I ended up drowning right before I was planning to leave. So I had 3 months left in my summer working routine and I full on drowned, like blackout, gone.
So someone pulled you out near drowning, right?
No full on drowned, dead, like gone. Ended up in a hospital, ended up in a pressure chamber. Somehow by the grace of God, I didn't have brain damage.
You're lucky.
I didn't permanently explode all my eardrums. I mean, maybe I'm definitely a little off to be in this business.
You're not brain injured. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and
this is my game.
This is what Julie does.
This is my game. I'm like, you're lucky. This is my daily story.
Oh, so. It was one of the biggest blessings of my life, one of the scariest and one of the most peaceful times I've ever been through, and it still drives me and affects me, and
that peaceful, easy feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's a
so
dangerous spot.
so that was kind of the last thing that happened before I got on an airplane and started to really pursue acting. I was like, you know what? I can always come back. I can always turn around.
Right.
But I need to go for it. And so, and then it was honestly just years of me doing what we do as actors. We audition, we get rejected, we keep going. You got to learn to wear your heart on your sleeve, but have a thick skin. You need to pull all your insecurities out and just slam it on the table and deal with it. And I think year by year, job by job, it was this staircase of figuring out that what was going on in here is being accepted out here, and something's working. So I'm going to keep going. And I mean, I'm still doing that. I'm still going. I don't believe I've had the role that has been the one where people go, that was the one where now I know who Jesse is, or we recognize his work, or, and not that that's my aim. My aim is not necessarily to be massive and have this, spotlight of recognition. My aim rather would be to be so good at what I do that there's a side effect, and that side effect would be hopefully reaching people, hopefully doing performances that surprise people, constantly move and groove. That's why I love going from rom-com to action to drama to comedy. And because I think, as Julie mentioned earlier, the audience loves to have their heartstrings pulled, and you need to change it up. And so I love surprising people if I can. So I'm going to keep working on that.
Okay, well, that was amazing.
That is an amazing story.
People in the comment sections are like, "This story is amazing." So that's a great.
And everybody is saying, and I agree, this should be a movie.
Yeah, let's make it the Jesse Hutch story.
I actually am developing a rom-com that has a lot of those events that I'm talking about in it.
We're here for it.
Yeah,
These
and so
people were like, "This is amazing." So,
well, I would like to push the envelope of kind of true events from my past, but mixed in with this kind of classic romantic comedy of people, I think, just getting to know each other as life kind of unveils itself. So I have yet to actually get the script completed, but I'm already working on outlines and things like that, and then we'll see who's interested in backing it up.
That's exciting. Keep us all posted on that.
So how did you add in stunt work into that?
I've just always been that guy. Like when I was in high school, my nickname was Hardcore Hutch, and that was just because I would go free climbing all the time. I literally would get kicked out of, like, I would go and climb church steeples, just like totally free climb it, or I'd take a rope and then I'd leave the rope there because security would be screaming and yelling at me, and I'd belay down the building and it's gone, and they're yelling at me, and I'm like, oh no.
Right.
My first kind of bike I just built from all these old bikes I found in the ditch, and it was just this beast of a war machine, and I constantly was trying to drive that over train bridges, and so it was just kind of a natural thing that I love doing. Like I wasn't a drinker, I wasn't a smoker, I wasn't into drugs. I've never tried alcohol in my life, and I think on the flip side, I was just the guy who was like, I'm just gonna go climb that cliff now by myself, and if I fall off, it's probably not going to be good, but just don't fall off, I guess. Although I did, and I have.
Sure.
But yeah, that was a part of my life.
Certified, right? To be you have to be like, there's like a process to be in film, though, to be a stunt person in film, right?
I mean, it takes experience. It takes kind of getting in there, training with other people that are in the industry, and I love it, though. I've always loved it. So the very first job that I ever had in this industry was on a series called Dark Angel, which was created by James Cameron.
Yeah.
And I booked the role, and I showed up, and they said, the stunt coordinator's here. I was like, the what? The stunt coordinator? Oh, sick. There's stunts? And I was like, and I met, his name was Mike Mitchell. He's still doing it to this day. And he was the first guy that I met. And I was like, can I do some stunts? And he's like, well, like, can you do anything? And I was like, well, I did kickboxing for 6 years. I've done Muay Thai for 4. And I just, I've always been, he's like, all right, well, let's go in the alleyway. Let's see what you got. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, we're going to throw down. I'm like, okay. So we go out and he literally like in the alleyway. He's like, all right, you get him up, man. Let's go. Mm-hmm. He starts throwing some, and we're like, we're going at it here. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll let you do some stuff. Yeah. And I was like, all right. This is awesome. And so they still brought in a stunt double for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to. It's insurance. Yeah. It's And so that was when I met a gentleman named Marshall Virtue, and so he was the stunt coordinator on Batwoman for the CW. Mm-hmm. And so him and I just worked together. I was on there for 8 episodes playing a villain, and he was the stunt coordinator. So to go full circle, like almost 21 years later, to have the first guy who was brought in to like stunt double me. And then, I mean, I ended up doing a ton of stuff, and he just got to like eat off the craft table. And we still joke about that because he was like, "This is amazing. He's like, I get paid. I was just gonna eat food, and you go do it." But to see Marshall grow, and now he's a coordinator, and he's got kids, and he's married, and it's just what a wonderful kind of circle, and just really cool. I mean, to see someone do something for so long. And I got to run into him and work with him and be like, man, you're still doing it. And so am I. And, keep it up.
That sounds like it would feel really fulfilling to kind of go back from right where you started, the same person. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of fun.
But stunts is like right up my alley. I mean, So like I said, Batwoman, I was one of the most recent, Supernatural's hired me as a actor, but also a stunt actor because they wanted someone who could act the scenes, but also massive fight scenes, and someone who can handle taking a beating. And so I'm continuously moving towards kind of that. If I had to use comparison, it'd be like the Ryan Reynolds and the Tom Cruise kind of feel, right? Where it's like I'm, the leading man who does stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
right.
I want to tell as much of the story as I possibly can, and I'd like to be equipped and professional so that anybody else who's in that position can go, yeah, like Jesse can handle this. It's not like an actor who's just really keen. He's an actor, but he's also is a stunt performer, and he also does train hard, and he has demos of stunts specific. You're ready. You're prepared. Some things you can't just make up as you go. Sometimes you can, but in the stunt world, you got to be very honest, right? Hey, can you take the BMX bike and do a double backflip? You can't pull the actor thing, which is like, and then go learn it on the weekend. No, you got to do the stunt performer professional thing, which is like, no, I can't do that.
Right.
But if I have time, I'm willing to learn.
Right.
But sometimes they go, we don't have time. We need someone who can do this tomorrow. And you're like, I'm not your guy then.
Right.
Can you do the double backflip on the bike?
No.
Can you do a single?
I'd go for it if I was going into a swimming pool or something.
Yeah. If you're going into the giant crash mat.
Yeah, I'm there.
I've maybe done it to a mattress.
No, you haven't.
I used to be wiry and small, and I'm a Gen Xer, and we built some really nice jumps.
I'm just envisioning this now.
I was.
Gosh, I'm so boring compared to you two.
She's just hanging out with Johnny Knoxville. Hey, all right, we're gonna do this one.
Oh no, we built a lot of things and broke a lot of things. Built a lot of bikes and broke them.
Oh, same.
Right. No, see?
That's
it was a thing. Yeah. It was a thing. No one knew where I was.
I was like the girl in the woods having tea parties. I wasn't doing any of this stuff.
That's pretty crazy though. Like it was like Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, you never know.
That's awesome.
Do you have any stories of a time where they asked you if you could do something and you couldn't, but you just kind of lied your way through it?
Like stunt wise or performance wise?
No, just in general. Like, can you ride a horse? Sure. That kind of thing.
Can you skate? Can you?
Yeah, there's definitely moments where I'm honest, but there's other things too where I'm like, man, I can totally go out and just brush up on that and I'll be good. Right. So there's times that it's like, oh man, it's been a while, but I can do it.
Sure.
So yeah, that's come up. But I mean, I always enjoy, I like going for things too. Like recently I've heard that maybe they're going to be on the lookout for Wolverine again. And that's a role that I've always always wanted to play. And at
Good
one
picture
point,
it.
a whole bunch of us did write a short, and we were going to film it actually, just to sort of just to do something, right? To have to have someone visualize that. But so lately, I actually have reached out to my reps, and I'm like, hey, if there's an avenue, I'm willing to. I'll go get photos done in that nature, or I'm willing to go out and film something. Like I'll go find the stunt team, and we'll do some crazy stuff, and I'll put something together. Just because some of these things I want to fight for. I don't want to just sit around and hope that, you know, somebody, 100%. I mean, that's our business, right? We're always on this shelf, and you're just like, hoping someone sees you and goes, maybe let's give them a shot. And I mean, maybe it happens, but I don't know. I ain't getting any younger, and the world's not getting any slower. So, I mean, another example was Planet of the Apes. Originally, I was having difficulty getting into see casting because I didn't have a theater background, but I had been doing motion capture for years already at that point for Microsoft, and bringing these creatures to life and doing all kinds of things. And I was like, no, I've been training in stunts. I was like, I can do this. So I went out and I watched all the videos of Terry Notary and all these guys that were on the first movie, right? And I rented a shop and I built my own ape arms, and I put together my own demo. So I just went out and started learning how to run like an ape and learning how to go over stuff and roll, and I put together this demo reel. And it just turns out that I ran into some people that actually know Terry, and I showed it to them, and they were like, "You mind if we send this to his studio?" And I was like, "Not at all."
Go ahead.
So, I mean, ultimately I did end up getting a 2-hour audition with about 15 other people, and I got to kind of go for it, but it never worked out in my favor, but at least I was able to go for it, and I felt like, hey, I'm going to fight for this. And I mean, what worst case scenario, you have a great story to tell, or whatever, you fall on your face.
More experience.
Yeah.
More exposure, more contacts.
Well, and there's this weird mix too, because in the stunt world, it's okay to reach out to people and say, hey, here's my stuff. It's okay to show up at a gymnastics club and say, hey, how's everybody doing? I'm so-and-so. I want to train and I want to get into this. And you start training. In the acting world, it's more traditionally like, well, you don't contact us, have your people call our people, and then maybe those people will talk to the other people. And so there's this weird dynamic, right, where it's like, I'm trying to honor and respect everyone's space and do it professionally, but there's still this part of me that is grounded in sort of that just go get it done stunt attitude, which is like, be honest, work hard, and just go for it, and see what happens. And so, maybe that's shot me in the foot sometimes. Maybe producers or casting doesn't like the fact that I sent them an email directly and said, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I hear you're casting this film, and I would love, I've never asked anyone to give me anything, but I would love to have a chance to fight for something if that's possible. So
you've asked for an opportunity, not
right. I get it. I'm not Tom Cruise. I'm not just gonna be like, yes, just give it to him. Not yet.
Not yet.
But I'm working towards that, and I'm a work in progress. And I don't know. I mean, if there's something you want to do, you just need to go for it and give it a shot.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's easier to do that or harder as you get older?
I think it's getting easier.
Yeah, I feel that too. That's the one great thing about being in your 40s. I feel like if you are interested in something or you want to do something, you don't feel like you can't try.
Yeah, there's something I think about. It's like experience. You need experience to get more experience sometimes. And there's this weird mix that I'm learning of how to utilize what you've learned and do it well, and still honor people and respect their roles, and don't crush people. But there's times when you need to speak up, and so I'm constantly sort of trying to live in that zone. I touched on it briefly earlier when I said when you're a lead actor, you lead the people, and sometimes that means you need to utilize a position that maybe you've been put in order to bring up something that isn't necessarily your fight, but you're doing it because you believe that the people around you need to be protected or championed or moved towards like a common goal.
Okay.
And I know I'm kind of speaking and I'm sort of being indirect here, but it's just, yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a hierarchy sometimes, and it's like, well, they're the actors, so, you know, don't talk to them, or don't say that, you know, or tiptoe around the emotion of it. But again, because I have that sort of stunt and that just action, and I just love that part of life. There's a part of me that says, like, just be straight up honest. Like, did that suck or not? Like, if it did, let's do it again, and we'll change it and fix it. But there's sometimes when you just need to, if you're in a position that you can speak for someone else and you know that they would have a voice if they could, but if they spoke up, maybe they could lose their job. Who knows? I mean, you need to do it. You know, you have to.
When we walk beside people, and we make everyone stronger. So that's one of my big things, is like, walk beside somebody and shore them up, and they shore you up at the same time. And so it makes everything better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're ever given a platform, right, whatever that is, it doesn't matter if there's one person watching you or 50 trillion. You need to act the same. So you have to figure out who you are and what you believe in, and I think that helps. It and that can come with age. It can come with experience if you seek it and you want it. I think, because I mean, you can definitely go the other way, where just because you're older doesn't mean you know anything.
Oh, well, yeah.
Other than you get set in your ways.
Right. Oh, for sure. And there's things you know lots about and things you don't know anything about.
Absolutely.
I think when you're older, you're smart enough to know which are which.
Right.
So.
Hopefully.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
hopefully.
Okay, I think we have to talk about Rama Drama, because there are some people on here that were at Rama Drama, and we have to talk about Acting with the Stars. That was so much fun. Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was completely unexpected, just flying by the seat of our pants, like making it up.
But that made it so much more fun.
It was fun. We were going to ask you if you had ever done improv before, but you mentioned that was like your first acting class, so that's a lot of fun. Whenever you pulled out the vacuum, I mean, we were just like crying.
The vacuum.
Well, the staff was fantastic, because I'm like hobbling off the stage because I'm playing. I just came up with that. Right, he's got a broken back. I don't know, and then I get off the stage and I'm like, I need all the snacks. Do you have snacks? Do you have a vacuum? Is there a broom closet around here? And I'm like literally running behind the stage, pulling things apart and looking in boxes. And then one of the guys said, here's a vacuum. And I'm like, yes. And come back out with the vacuum. Come back. Did you get any snacks? You got the chips? You know? And so they were fantastic. But sometimes when you're given very little, that's when you have the most opportunity.
Right.
I always find, and I always say this, like, speaking is not always the most powerful position. It's actually listening. And so yeah, I just had fun with it. And of course I love accents, so I threw an accent in there.
As you should.
Yes.
Yeah, I was quite surprised though at the feedback, because everybody the rest of the weekend, that was like one of their highlights. So
it was
completely
fun.
Sandra's in the comments going, and that's where the vacuum came from. Like,
all of a sudden there was just a vacuum.
Yeah.
I think it was fun too, because like the first round, it was funny, but like the more you all did the scene, you know, then you've got Neil like with the chips in the bathroom, like you guys just kind of stole the show. It was a lot of fun to see the progression of how silly it could get.
And it was fun as we were watching. We knew more about the scene. It made the other pieces funnier, if that makes sense, because you're just like in the context of who the characters were, and it just got funnier and funnier. People were dying. It was like, that needs to come back again, Acting with the Stars. We're like, and then Julie Sherman Wolf wrote that, right? She wrote that scene. She like wanted video from it and everything. She's like, who took video of that? Because I need that.
Well, I mean, and I mean, when you give a bunch of actors the opportunity to try and, you know, to be a part of something like that, you never know what's going to happen. So So yeah, I think it was fantastic that everybody just started. And I mean, and that's the way it is in real life on set, right? Like you show up and you're prepared with your dialogue so that you can play in a sense. So you can actually just get to doing the work, because if actors aren't prepared, then you're just not prepared. And then you just spend the time rolling film on someone preparing rather than showed up and you're like, okay, now we can find things. We can tweak and play and listen. And, you know, I mean, the rules are a little bit different in a lot of the projects, but I would love to do more rom-coms that are like really heavy on the comedy and would allow for more of that kind of ridiculous, just crazy, you know, nonsense. I mean, I'm in 100%.
I think that would be fun, and it's just one more way to be a little bit out of that cookie cutter mold to bring more range to what's available on the screen. I think, people tune in because they kind of want to know what the overall arc is, but the way they get there, they want more variety, and so I think people would love that. And when we were there, we got to watch 2 Tickets to Paradise early, and that was more comedy than I've seen on Hallmark in a long time, and we everyone loved it, right? So no, that'd be great. So
it was a lot of fun. Was that your first Rama drama?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was only the second one, so that was our first two.
Yes.
That was fun. We're like, invite us back again, Gabrielle. That was a ton of fun. So.
Oh yeah, it really was. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it and had a good time.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Hey, we should ask a couple more questions. Oh, I'm like, we're getting into an hour here.
I know, and you have something after this too, so we'll.
Yeah, so but I'm going to ask one more question because you're here for your Christmas movie. Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that. And I was trying to think back because I was like, man, what are some of the favorite Christmas movies?
Is there anything your family has to watch every year?
I still enjoy watching Home Alone with my kids. They think it's hilarious.
It's outstanding.
So I get to watch them watch it now.
Yes. Right. We're in that stage now too, and that's been fun.
Yeah. Elf is always a fantastic film to watch, and
everyone in my household can quote Elf from about top to bottom. So
there's so many good gags in there. Like I'd love to do a movie like that.
Yeah.
I mean the Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
The Griswolds.
Definitely more of an adult movie, obviously, but
classic.
Just some of the
good.
I watched that and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is a family dynamic, and you know what I mean. Got to throw Die Hard in there. People always argue, is it a Christmas movie? Like, yes, it is. It took place at Christmas. It's fine.
You're the second one to throw out Die Hard in the last 2 weeks. So
yeah.
Todd, a certain percentage of people's Christmas left. You and Kevin McGarry both got Die Hard.
Yes.
Except he also added, what was it? Batman Returns.
Batman Returns.
Like, that was the first time I've heard
Christmas.
that.
We're like,
yes, it did. Mm-hmm. I was trying to remember if one of the Back to the Futures took place at Christmas. Around Christmas time.
I'm trying to think. First one.
Because I was trying to figure out how to work that movie.
The second one was a little rough. I'm like, the second one was a little rough. Back to the Future.
Yeah.
That been a while since I've seen those, so I'm no help.
We watched a lot of those. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Home Alone. A lot of people are like Home Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw it in the theater. Somebody said I saw it in the theater the first time it came out. So.
Oh wow, that's awesome. I mean, I think Michael J. Fox was. I mean, he was a great actor. I mean, I would have loved to have had an opportunity to work with him. Just his personality, and closest I ever got was I did a series that the showrunner from Family Ties was our showrunner.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so he would share stories about working with all those folks, and it was
there was like classic sitcom stuff there, right?
Yeah, I grew up watching that. Definitely. Yeah. What about a Christmas song? Do you have a favorite Christmas song?
Silent Night's probably always been one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. I like singing it like just with an acoustic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sing it for my
kids,
is
how it was written for acoustic guitar. That's all Silent Night was written.
I think I did a version of singing actually, and was it in for Christmas? I think INN, like in for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that was just an on the whim scene that we kind of came up with. It was supposed to be me in one room and her in another, and she's like, "Oh, you know, kind of miss him," and I'm like thinking of her, and I found this old guitar in the closet, and I was just like, "What if I was just playing a Christmas carol or something?" And then the camera goes from one room to the other, and she's like sitting against the opposite wall, and we're both back to back, like. And the director was totally cool with it, and the DP was like, "We can do it," and we like totally rejigged the whole scene, and it ended up making it in the movie.
Nice.
Awesome.
I love those kinds of stories.
Yeah,
That's
like there's another movie I recently did. It'll be a wedding movie, and I was on my way to set, and you're a lot of the times you're inspired by the writing, right? You get into this character, you get it on its feet, you're working it, and you're going, man, you find all these inspirations and things you want to bring to the character, right? And sometimes your ideas get shot down, and sometimes they're like, cool, let's roll with it. And it was like kind of the end scene where my character is supposed to be like, pour my heart out to this girl, and I'm like, man, this is not working. Like, he's just, what a sissy moment this is right now. Like, he's not manning up. He's not, you know, he's not sort of being confident in who he is and standing there and just presenting himself to her and giving her the choice to be like, hey, do you see me or not? And on the way in, I was like, okay, I got an idea. And so I literally was eating some breakfast in my trailer, like over 15 minutes, and I wrote this poem. And I went to set, and it's a massive risk. So like, honestly, my heart's kind of, I'm in that, like I said, I'm in that age and stage where I'm like willing to risk and bring it forward, but it doesn't mean you don't feel it sometimes.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'm about to literally propose just an entirely new version of the scene. I'm like, this is, okay, this is either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. And I go to the director, and I'm like, how do you like this scene? And he's like, I hate it. And I'm like,
yes.
Good start.
Good start.
Can I propose something? I said, okay, just imagine that I have a leather jacket on, and imagine I'm holding a red rose. Okay. And I just did it. And I read this scene, and the actress who was, playing opposite me was there as well. And I said, please feel free to tell me if this is stupid. And I just went for it. And I said this poem, and we did it. And he's like a super emotional driven director. And he's like, literally like got a single tear. And he's like, I have to run it by the producers, but he's like, as far as I'm concerned, we're doing it. And he's like, can I have that? And he like took it, and he left, and he
got like your napkin right with your poem.
literally, it was on a piece of wrote on a piece of scrap paper, and they loved it, and they ended up going for it. And so it's in the movie, and so it's just moments like that where you're like, man, I'm not trying to say that I'm better. Right. I'm inspired by what we've been doing and by what's been coming to life off of these pages, and I'm just feeling like there's something more here,
Yeah.
And I was just thrilled that they were okay with it, because it felt right. It felt like, okay, because I want the audience too because a lot of the times it's like we're the face, and you're either gonna hate the face or you're gonna love the face, for lack of a better term. And I mean, sometimes things are out of your control. They pick a different take, they do a different edit, they put different music, and you're like, oh wow, okay, didn't see that one coming, cool. and you're just out there, right? It's a risk every time. And I'm not saying be afraid of it, but you got to know that it exists. And so if you're going to risk, you might as well risk your own heart in the process and see what happens.
I love that.
That sounds amazing. So what, can you tell us what project this is, or is that?
Which, I mean, unless they change the name, wow, why am I blanking?
Is this the Love Club by chance?
No, the Love Club I did after, actually.
Okay.
Wow, why am I
was gonna say, because those are rolling out here too. That's gonna be a series of 4 movies.
Yeah. Wow, you asked me and I had a total brain fart.
That's okay. It happens.
It's not okay. I need to know something.
Well, who knows? It'll probably change its name like 10 times.
Something wedding. It's probably like Dream Wedding, or you know what I mean.
Right.
I'm close.
Summertime
I'm close. I'm looking some stuff up.
Oh, he's looking it up.
It's called Dream Wedding. Yeah.
Dream Wedding. Okay.
Dream Wedding. Yep.
Do you know where that's coming out?
I don't. I mean, I've heard rumors. but they haven't confirmed it yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know 100%.
Right.
So
we have learned that these things are mysteries sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, and then, I mean, you know these names. It's always like something love, or like love.
Yeah. Right. And then
some of the names, let's be honest, some of the names are like, oh my goodness. You're like, can we hit the nail on the head like anymore? Like falling in love while making donuts. Like it's just like literally the
name, the titles, and the movie posters usually like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We could do it better.
Christmas in Toyland, I was actually happy. Like the Christmas in Toyland poster was simple, but it was nice. I was like,
cute.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cute, and it looks a little different. It stands out, bright colors, and so
the colors are bright.
It's not like the classic pose on the front. Like we don't need the pose anymore, right?
You gotta tell everybody that.
I maybe do. We do a lot of edits, on our. Because we run social media 2 different ways. We have, a fan account and a podcast account. So we run a lot of social media, and we maybe have some strong feelings about editing.
Right. Posters are,
no, we liked your poster. Like that was cute. And we've seen a few recently that have been better. Like we're like, wait, look at that.
Yeah, a little better.
The classic stand them there and put them in the middle of the poster. Right. So you've got a couple things coming out.
Yeah.
Do you have anything other than those 2? Maybe.
Good question. It's been busy. What have I done? No, I think those 2 have yet to come out.
Okay, and then this movie too, and then Christmas in Toyland.
Right, and we know you filmed some of the Love Club.
Yeah, so that's like 4 movies. One of the movies is kind of my main storyline that I'm in, but a lot of the couples are throughout. However that plays out. But yeah, I think there'd be some fun stuff there too. As I mentioned, I'm always trying to push that, especially the comedy. I just think comedy is the best.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
And I mean, that's why we're developing a lot of our own projects, and in pitching, I mean, something that I'm really passionate about that we've been developing for just short of 10 years now, actually, to be honest with you, from like very beginning stages. And it's kind of a Lethal Weapon meets Bad Boys.
Okay.
Nice.
And because I love that action comedy aspect, but I think it should be fun. I think that it should be some kind of a 90s feel almost. It doesn't take place in the 90s, but just, I mean, if you look up movies that were made in the 90s, they were just amazing. Like there's so many good movies that came out that you just like, you're just like rooting for the people, and and you just fun music. And so I just want to bring that back, and
I love that.
And I think everybody can enjoy like a good song or a good old car or maybe a grenade launcher explosion once in a while.
Where's my car chase? Where's my?
But then fun, right? Like witty banter, like good dialogue that you just want to watch these people. So I mean, a lot of that has been developed too, based on some of my real life, right? I'm married with 3 kids. What would that look like if I was an undercover agent? Who still acts like a kid and loves movies and quotes movies and wants to be Batman, and what does that look like? And so that's something that I'd like to say we're getting closer to the right people to build the team to make that sort of come to fruition. But it's a slow uphill climb. I think as Blade said in the first movie, Blade, Wesley Snipes' character had a line where he said, somebody's always trying to ice skate uphill.
Right.
And it's like, sometimes it just takes time. It's like hard, but you got to do it.
Sounds like it'll be worth it though. Hey, we've had you for so long, and I know you have another podcast after this, so I want to start wrapping up. Let's just do a really quick round of suspenders or buttons, which is our version of our this or that. So we'll just ask you like a white elephant game or an ugly Christmas sweater party. What would you rather do?
Oh, okay. So I just picked which one.
Pick one.
Okay. Was that a legit question?
Yeah, that's a legit one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go again.
Okay. So a white elephant game or an ugly Christmas sweater party?
A white elephant game.
Okay. Summer vacation or winter vacation?
That's a tough one. Come on. I really like both.
Okay.
Summer vacation.
Okay.
Family activity or date night?
Ooh.
I know. I couldn't pick that one.
Oh, I love my date nights with my wife, but I love my family. But the family works better when we have date nights.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great
way
answer.
to get around that one. I like it.
Hot or iced coffee?
I don't drink coffee, but cold is actually hot chocolate's my favorite.
Okay.
So
well, there you go. Hot chocolate. That's your answer. Go with it.
Phone call or text?
Who is it?
Anybody.
Text.
Yeah. Pasta or pizza?
Ooh, both so good. I gotta go pasta.
Yeah.
Like a really good pasta.
Delicious. All right, well, that's all we got. So Jesse's movie is Christmas in Toyland. It's going to air on Hallmark July 23rd, 8/7 Central. Thanks for joining us, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you. Loved hearing your stories. Catherine will take us out, but wait 1 second before you pop out.
Yeah. Thanks,
thank you,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.